What is going on, you guys, and welcome to another video. For the new subscribers, welcome on in. The usual suspects, welcome back. You know the deal. So I wanted to get to start another series about how to find the best trucking company for you. Now, the most important thing I said, and the reason that I stressed it, was that it's for you. That's why I made this into a series instead of trying to make this into a 30-minute video. I want to be able to provide as much information as I can for you guys and try and keep it concise, but not where I miss something. But, if I do miss something, leave me a comment. I'll answer it down below, or I may even make a whole video about it. It just depends because different things happen for different reasons, and you may ask a question that really could help somebody, and I'll want to dive deeper into it. So, on that, I need to make this note that I say this, that your experience in trucking will be your experience. It will not be any YouTubers. It will not be my experience. It's your experience. That's important to understand because you have to go into this and you have to figure out three things: what you need, what you want, and what you expect. And that will drive all of your decisions in this game. Nobody can tell you this is the best company, you have to go here, because they may not have what you need, or they may not have what you want, or they may expect things that you're not willing to do. Only you know those things, and that's why it's so important that you figure that out before you even roll into this prospect. So this is not a specific about companies. I'm not going to talk about Prime or TMC. What I'm going to talk about is freight types. What are the different freight types? What do they do for you? What's good about this one? What's good about that one? Pros, cons, and everything in between. So this is probably, like I said, so important. So this one may be a little bit longer, but I'll try and keep it condensed and I'll stop talking about it. Now, if I do, like I just did, mention any company names, it's just for demonstration purposes only. I am not going to promote any company. This is not a sponsored video. This is riding with Kev's opinion. So if I mention a company, I'm not bad-mouthing them. I'm not promoting them. I'm just talking, trying to help you guys. So, on that note, let's get rolling into the video. All right. So there are three basic types of companies that I'm going to go over. And I'm going over this kind of an aspect from somebody who's new to trucking. You experienced guys who be like, I know the three types. And I'm also not going into all the offshoots. There are umpteen different things you can do in trucking. So the basic three companies I'm going to talk about are Flatbed, Reefer, and Dry Van. And as someone who has done all three, I think I can give you some very basic general information that may help you, tell you some pros, tell you some cons, things that I like, which one I prefer, not the one you're thinking probably. So we're going to start where I got my start, which is in Flatbed. Now, when I was 18, I knew I was going in the military. And I'm not saying that this is the right thing to do, but I said, well, I'm going to go in the military. I'm just not going to go in the biggest branch. I'm not going to go in the one that everybody does. I'll go be special. So I went in the Marine Corps, which may or may not make me special. So when I went into Flatbed, or when I went into trucking, my wife and I talked about it, and it was like, well, Flatbed is for a beginner with no experience. It's semi-specialized. It's a different type of trailer. There's more to it. It's not just pulling a box, and that's not an insult. That's the truth, and that can be a pro or a con, depending how you want to look at it. So we said, hey, I liked everything that TMC had to offer for a new driver. I had my CDL before I went there, so I would go to TMC, and I went into Flatbed. Flatbed has special DOT requirements because now you're not just driving a truck in Flatbed. You have to secure the load, and it's your job to keep the motoring public safe from stuff flying off your trailer. So you have to stop more. There's more you have to be able to do, and I don't do math. TMC had a breakdown. I'm sure other companies do. You don't really have to think. I could look at a load very quickly and know what securement I needed, and you also can't over-secure a load. But new drivers need to be aware that if you go into Flatbed, it's not just how to drive the truck. You're adding more to your plate by going Flatbed. You have to learn driving, turning, backing, securing, tarping, all of that as a new driver. So that is definitely something you need to be aware of, but also understand that you're never locked in trucking. There are people that go from Flatbed to Reefer and Reefer to Flatbed and Flatbed to Dry Van and all and everything in between. This is just an overview. You've got your options. So in Flatbed, starting out, you're going to haul basic cargo. You're going to haul plywood. You're going to haul drywall, basic steel, building supplies, shingles, things like that. That's what a lot of the bigger companies who are going to hire somebody with no experience are going to haul. No, that's not the only thing they haul, but it is definitely something that, you're not going to be hauling, excavators and John Deere tractors and all that. You can get there. You have to start in flatbed to get to that, but it isn't typically something you're going to haul. Your first load's going to be a load of Bobcats. They're going to give you some stuff. If you go to TMC, it's going to be steel. I know that Maverick and Melton and Prime, a lot of the same type stuff. So as you progress, you will get to haul more specialized stuff even with these companies, but you don't start off doing that. Now, there's an important term that you're going to want to learn because it'll apply to all of these and it'll make you sound like you know what you're talking about. And it's a good question to ask people, and that is average length of haul. And in flatbed, that average length of haul tends to be a little shorter. They tend to not do super long runs because if you're hauling lumber and you pick it up in Bumscrew, Mississippi, they typically don't need it in Pennsylvania. Typically it's not specialized. They can get lumber from somewhere closer. So what that can lead to, that a lot of people like, is, let's talk about them, guys, flatbed hours of operation. If you want a Monday through Friday, normal business hours trucking job over the road, flatbed kind of offers that as an option. Because, like I said, there's nothing super special. There's a lot of solar-powered flatbed guys because that's just the way the customers work. You're picking up at one plant and you're delivering to a customer that's open Monday through Friday. Lots and lots of flatbed like lumber places. They're not taking receiving hours are going to be Monday through Friday from 7 to 5. And typically you'd get somewhere in the morning, get loaded, drive your 6, 7, 8, 9 hours, get there, 7, 8 o'clock at night, and deliver the next day. That is very typical in flatbed. But flatbed is manual labor is also the trade-off. Like I said, I lost 30 pounds the summer of 2020 while I was driving as a flatbed for TMC because if it's raining, snowing, windy, 112 like we're having right now in Texas, the load's got to be delivered, it's got to be secured, it's got to be tarped. So you get better hours, you do a whole lot more work. So that's kind of up to you. If you have a physical limitation, if you have a legitimately not lard-ass disease, but if you have a legitimate physical limitation, flatbed, be honest with yourself. Figure out if you can actually do it, lifting 120-pound tarps or 80-pound tarps. And I used to tell people I didn't lift tarps off the ground. I was at Home Depot. They have a forklift for a reason, but you do sometimes have to get it up on top of a 13-foot load. That's something you need to be aware of in the flatbed game. So I would suggest, this is a suggestion, I'm not telling you what to do, you do you. I would suggest looking for somewhere flatbed that does percentage. Because of the lower length of haul and the labor involved, you get paid for tarping. It's kind of like stop pay, if you do others, which we'll talk about. But I liked percentage because I didn't worry about how far the load was going. I just had to worry about what it paid. Kind of like a mileage guy, you don't want to worry how many miles. It's, how can I make the most money for the least amount of work? Flatbed definitely has that option. So if you like being physically active, you like dealing with people and customers kind of being repetitive, you'll deliver load, pick up a load, it can be very steady in flatbed, then flatbed definitely is an option that you should probably consider. Now, these next two, I'm going to go ahead and combine them together, but I'll definitely differentiate, when need be, hey, plus, minus, pro, con about the two, and that's reefer and dry van. Now, if you went to CDL school or you're going to CDL school to get your CDL, you're probably going to be trained on a 53-foot dry van trailer. So get your CDL, you learn how to drive that. If you go into reefer dry van, you don't have to learn a new trailer. And that's really cool. Now, of the two, I will tell you that I prefer reefer, except for chicken plants. Chicken plants. Just saying. I don't care for the chicken plant. But I'll get into some differentiating reasons. But I definitely prefer reefer. But again, personal choice. You have to look at your goals and how much you want to do and what you want to deal with. So if you're already familiar with the trailer, you already know about the trailer, that's definitely going to be a plus. Now, they operate basically the same schedule when I was talking about business hours and flatbed. and that's called 24/7. They're basically picking up most of the time. Speaking in trend, you're picking up out of large warehouses, 100 doors, 200 doors, massive facilities that basically never shut down. So that's going to be an ability to, you don't have a set schedule. They don't have typical hours. Their customers are typically open. Now, your delivery might be different. You might be going to, a specific place. Now, I've been to a couple of different places when I was doing Reefer where basically they were big warehouses, but they only took their deliveries at night. So their deliveries might go 11 o'clock at night to 4 o'clock in the morning. That we could get it in, get it situated, and then they sent the loads out to their customers during the day. So delivery might be different. Your pickup might be like that, but basically it's 24/7 in the Reefer Drive-In game. So if you want to load, you can find one. I mean, basically anytime, any day. You want to pick up a load on Christmas because you're single and running? Somebody's loading on Christmas, New Year's, 4th of July, Easter, Thanksgiving. You want to load, you can get a load. But that comes at a cost. And it's not labor, because the only labor you got to do is open the doors, right? So no labor aspect, but downtime. And so here's basically how it works. In a nutshell, for most reefer companies, a lot of drive-in companies are the same way. You get there, you're going to get to a guard check, massive facility. You're going to get checked in. They're going to tell you to go somewhere else and check in again. Then that person's going to say, go park over there, and we'll get you all when we have a door, or they'll give you a door when you check in. You go to the door, you do your manual labor of opening the doors, you back your trailer dock, and you wait. And then you wait some more. 2 hours, 6 hours, 4 hours. Seems to have gotten a lot worse in the industry, hence the should you go into trucking video. It's not the greatest process, but basically you can sleep. You'll have downtime to watch my YouTube videos. You got a lot of downtime. And what a lot of people tell you in reefer and driving, you need to learn to sleep while you can. My wife, she can shut it down and be asleep in 5 seconds and snoring. I have to wind down. That was one of the hard problems that I had with reefer. But with reefer, you can haul both. I hauled a lot of drive-in loads where I didn't turn the reefer on. It's just a box with a refrigerator on it. So I prefer reefer for that reason as well. So going into that, the reefer loads, though, they do tend to be a little heavier. Or a lot heavier depending what you're hauling, depending on the company you go to work for. Coming up in a future video. But they did tend to be heavier. So if you're an owner-op or a lease-op and you're looking at reefer, just understand you're going to spend a little bit more on fuel. Not that flatbed loads are any lighter, but they can be. Building supplies is not typically heavy. You get your plywood, your lumber. It does tend to be heavy. Drive-in, I hauled loads under 10,000 pounds all the time. 20,000 pounds all the time. So back to what I mentioned earlier, length of haul. Length of haul in the drive-in reefer game is great. You can really get some miles in drive-in and reefer. The last company I was with, they just kept bouncing me, and it was fantastic. It didn't pay the greatest, but it's fantastic because I would just go from Texas to Utah back to Texas. And so it was greatness for getting the miles. You'd get loaded and you'd have 2-3 days where you didn't have to deal with that. Now, preface that with saying with reefer and drive-in, you better get good at backing. Because in that story, you're backing in the dock. They may even tell you to move docks. They may not have huge backing areas. Or they may be so full that they park trailers anywhere and everywhere. So they're not worried about you backing. So you better get at backing. But the plus or minus on that is you're also not going to have to deal with people. Reefer can be a very lonely game because that 3 days, 4 days where you're driving, you're not dealing with people. There are plants, with all the restrictions that we've had that I think a lot of companies just kept them in place to keep them in place, but I didn't deal with a person at all. Pull up, check in on a computer, it gives you a door, they put the paperwork in the trailer, you pull up, or there was one place, it gave you the seal and the paperwork when you checked out. You didn't deal with a person at all. So if you can sleep anywhere, you can run, you're not solar powered, you can pick up and deliver anytime, you don't want to do a lot of manual labor, and you want to get those miles in, drive-in reefer definitely could be a way to go. My preference, again, of the three, looking back on it, is reefer. Just because I could get loads, I could haul anything, I could get the long runs. I didn't care for no sleep. I didn't care for some of the delivery appointments, but you could make them. I preferred reefer. So, again, This is just a broad overview. I didn't talk about LTL. I didn't talk about local, dedicated, heavy haul. I'll get into some of that when I go in the next video about companies, but we'll talk about that. Speaking of the next video, it's going to be about companies. Now, you decided you want to get your CDL. You've decided what you want to haul. Now, what do you need to look at from the company's perspective? I'm going to go into that in the next video. So if you should want to consider trucking, you haven't made that, watch the other video. With that, God bless, and let's get rolling.